Welcome back to The Breakfast Show, the show worth waking up for. See, on The Breakfast Show, it is the show worth waking up for because we give away great prizes like that CD, Discipline, that popular song being played on our radio waves currently, feedback. And speaking of feedback, we've got a lot of feedback from our viewers who want to talk more or who are very keen in resetting or to make sure that their lifestyle has changed, because even though we're already in the third month of the year, going to our fourth month, some people are still, you know, taking their time, meeting their New Year resolutions, and they want to change their lifestyle. They want to be more healthy, and this is something interesting for you guys because you can reset your to lead a more healthier lifestyle. And with us today, we've got Dr. Ray Strand, who is an international speaker. He is a nutritional specialist. He's a consultant. He is an author. Please welcome. He's here with us today. Good morning, Doctor.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming with us. You're here in town to do to give a speech or some sort.
Right. I have. I'm going to speak to a group of doctors and lay people this evening at the KL Convention Center, starting at 7:30. Anybody's welcome to come. Talking about lifestyles that you can literally prevent becoming diabetic or to get rid of weight. And then I speak tomorrow at the USANA convention. That's who's brought me into Malaysia and Kuala Lumpur. And so I speak internationally on this topic. It's a major issue in the United States and Canada, but it's also a major issue here.
Yes, it is, because we Malaysians, we just love our food, and unfortunately most of our food has a lot of calories, and we indulge ourselves in teh tarik. Have you been to Malaysia before and we eat?
Yes, I have.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
So we've got our teh tarik, we've got our roti canai, our nasi lemak. So that it's basically our eating habits that are really bad. Nevertheless, there is still hope, right?
Well, there is, and that's why I'm out educating people, not only my patients, but physicians and other people, to understand that it's really the types of foods that we take in. And because we've started to process, especially a lot of our grains, we set them up in such a way as the body can absorb the sugars from those foods very rapidly. And there's some bad things that happen when you spike your blood sugar. Not only does it cause inflammation of your arteries, but it also can lead to overeating. It can set off a vicious cycle. We call it uncontrollable hunger, or cravings and emotional eating is just this cycle of spiking your blood sugar.
Why does these cravings happen? Is it just because of...
What happens is the fact that when you spike your blood sugar, you know, the body's got to control blood sugar in a very narrow range.
Right.
So that rapidly rising blood sugar literally overstimulates the release of insulin. Now, insulin's your storage hormone.
Okay.
But so as fast as that blood sugar goes up, it drops. But it drops into that low blood sugar range. And if the body allows that to keep going down,
right,
not only do you get mentally confused or a shaky weakness, you can literally have a seizure or go into a coma.
Yeah, that's serious.
So the body protects against that by stimulating the release of our stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol, to drive that blood sugar back to normal. But here's what people do not appreciate. Even though that blood sugar comes back to normal, you are now left with an uncontrollable hunger. You have no choice. You have to eat again. And you usually crave another high glycemic meal that sets off this vicious cycle, and you just continue to do it. So it leads to overeating. It also leads to the fact that we eventually, it's kind of like hollering wolf, we just do this day in and day out, month after month, we become less sensitive to our insulin. And so what happens over time, when that happens, the body compensates for that by making more and more insulin. But the problem is, as that blood insulin level rise, you tip over into an abnormal metabolic state,
right,
which not only can lead to diabetes, it can lead to heart disease, but you start gaining that unusual amount of weight around your middle, and you haven't changed anything, no activity or exercise or eating habits, and people wonder, well, why am I putting on all this weight and it's going here? Well, what's happened is they are now in an abnormal metabolic state where a calorie is no longer a calorie.
All right, you were talking about high glycemic foods, and then now we're going to go into low glycemic foods. Can you go into a little bit more detail about how does this...
Yeah, what happens here is the fact that for over 100 years, we have basically felt that how quickly we absorb foods is based on how long the chain of sugars are. You know, carbohydrates are simply long chains of sugar. So we felt these complex carbohydrates would be absorbed slowly by the body because it take it longer to break down. Simple sugars would be quickly absorbed. However, in 1981, Dr. David Jenkins just tested this, and he said, let's give a certain carbohydrate, like bread or rice or potatoes or apple, and then let's measure the rise of blood sugar.
Right.
And compare it to glucose. That's what the body changes all this in. So he gave glucose a glycemic index of 100. And then he started to compare all the other foods to it. What was amazing was foods like bread and flour and rice. We actually spiked our blood sugar faster than if we're slapping table sugar on our tongue.
So this is like the graphics showing now.
And look, it's really interesting to see. Here we have table sugar has a glycemic index of 61.
Right.
But look at jasmine rice. It has a glycemic index of 115. It's almost, will spike your blood sugar almost twice as fast as eating straight table sugar.
What would consider high and what would be considered low on an average? So at least, you know, when we have an index, for instance, then we would know how to...
I personally believe any glycemic index above 60 is high.
Okay.
Between 40 and 60 is moderate glycemic index, and below 40 is low glycemic index. And so I teach my patients to learn which foods spike their blood sugars and which ones don't. For example, basmati rice only has a glycemic index around 58.
Oh.
Long rice or wild rice maybe about 55. So there are, you know, if you get a really good brown rice that's not been processed much, that's probably in the low 60s. So it's just like the white potato has a glycemic index of 85. But if you do the red or new potato, it's about 60. Sweet potato is like 58. And yams are like 28.
And to think that I just thought that, okay, rice would be this much, potatoes would be this much, but within the potato range or the rice range itself, they have different indexes altogether.
And that's what we teach. So we teach people to go back eating foods that aren't processed that much.
Right.
Whole grains, whole fruits, whole vegetables, and legumes, nuts, they're all low glycemic. The body will absorb those foods very, very slowly. But you got to understand, when you start to eat this way and the blood sugar doesn't spike, first of all, you don't create that inflammation.
Right.
The second of all, you remain more satisfied after that meal, and you don't overstimulate the release of insulin, so blood insulin levels stay down, and you're more, you know, then you don't set off this uncontrollable hunger. So companies, you know, that I've dealt with have come out with food and meal replacements that are low glycemic. In fact, when we do our clinical trials, I've joined up with USANA. Their food replacement has a glycemic index of only 23.
Now there's a little pamphlet here. It says here, reset, lose the cravings, find the new you, and it actually gives an indication or something that you can look at if you're starting a 5-day program checklist, which basically tells you how you can replace your meals and how does it work? You don't eat your meals at all and you just drink or eat that particular product, or how?
That's right. You know, one of the toughest things as a physician I struggle with is helping people change their lifestyles or their behavior.
Especially when they're so used to their morning coffee, for instance, their roti chana in the morning.
So the hardest thing I've had is to actually help people make, even though they understand this, you know, life goes on. It's hard to change behavior. So these products, along with what we've done in the clinical trials, help people to, instead of having their breakfast, they have a meal replacement. They taste good, they're convenient, and they will not spike their blood sugar.
It tastes good, because I think that's the most important thing. When people think healthy, they think, oh, it's going to be bland, it's going to be saltless, it's going to be sugarless, it's going to taste horrible. But for this one, no.
It doesn't. You know, when we do our clinical trials, we start out, you know, after the 5-day reset, we go to phase 1, which is 2 meal replacement, one, you know, and then we have one regular low glycemic meal. So we've got to teach people how to eat regular food, and then to how to eat snacks that won't spike their blood sugar. But the one complaint we get is, oh, I don't want to drink my meals. But you know, when you go from phase 1 to phase 2, they're doing so well, they're losing weight, they feel good, they have more energy, and they're not going hungry. That's the key. We don't do calories in, calories out. We just are trying to improve insulin sensitivity by a triad of healthy lifestyles.
I see.
Because that's a problem, because when you tip over in this abnormal metabolic state, you hold on to fat like a sponge holds on to water.
Right.
That's one of the main reasons diets don't work, and they fail 98% of the time.
But for someone who is relatively fit, like our two handsome lads earlier on, they don't want to lose weight, they're happy with their body weight. Can someone go for something similar to this program?
Sure. It's healthy lifestyles. It's what I call, these are healthy lifestyles. It's just, if you have If you are overweight, you'll lose some weight. If you're not, it's no big deal. But you still want to prevent the damage